My father, Ed Grothus, used to buy things from the salvage yard at the laboratory and try to resell that for more money. But he always bought more things than he could sell. Eventually he owned a supermarket building, and all of his things began piling up in the supermarket, and it became known as the black hole because everything goes in and nothing comes out. My father worked here at the black hole for, I don't know, about 35 years.
Well, my dad was just pretty much a regular dad when we were growing up. I mean, outside of the fact that he was built this original home in Los Alamos of adobe that nobody else had built before, and you know, he was kind of an iconoclastic person, but he was extremely bright, and he loved his family.
I think you know, as a kid, I didn't really think anything of it, right? I mean, that's just the way my life was. That's how we grew up. That's how things were. My dad worked very hard for everything that he accomplished, and nothing was given to him. And so, you know, I got, I think, that same work ethic, that hard work pays off.
My father, like a lot of the people who worked here, really enjoyed technology, and he really enjoyed beautiful and clever machinery. And my father saved everything. He was born in the Depression, and he learned you don't waste anything, you never throw anything away.
He also, because he had a certain amount of personal integrity and bravery to be the sort of the voice and conscience of Los Alamos, he developed that on his own after we were pretty much gone. You know, he was the collector that we see here, but his politics really, he was really driven after the Vietnam War.
People didn't necessarily agree with his views, his political views, his views about nuclear energy. That's okay, but you know, I think, you know, let's look back at this time 20 years from now and see where we're at about the nuclear industry, and see who was the right fortune teller.
Eventually he passed away about 3 years ago, and now my mother has also passed away, and my brother Mike and my sisters Barb and Susie and I have inherited all of this. And we don't have the personality that my father had to sustain it. And it's going to collapse altogether unless we get rid of things. So we have been working all week long trying to get rid of all of this stuff.
I'm so exhausted this week. My brothers and I have worked so hard pulling stuff up out of the basement, trying to get, you know, people can't see it, they won't buy it. So we've brought out as much stuff as we can, hoping that we find some people who will take some of it away, because all of us feel, to a certain extent, like my father, just throwing this thing away, the nuclear waste of our, you know, the amount of money that was spent and the resources that went into these materials, to see them in a scrap heap or, you know, just turned into absolute junk, because there's many beautiful, beautiful items here.
It's my dad's collection, right? And I don't really have any sentimental attachment to anything that's here, and there's just lots and lots and lots of it. And so I'm just, you know, glad to see people excited about taking stuff away. I mean, just like it's the same as my dad. He was always excited about what he bought, what he was going to do with it, and how they were going to sell it to somebody else.
There are some really beautiful things, and it's hard not to think about trying to figure a way to make something beautiful with these old relics that are not being made anymore. I mean, nothing is made like this, like they made them in the 50s and 60s and even the 70s. Now nothing looks like this anymore. It's not hand tooled, it's made out of plastic, it's cast, the technology has evolved, and the craftsmanship and the engineering that went into just the construction of the materials, not including the conceptual construction, is just something you don't see.
There are all sorts of artists, aside from the people who need things for technical reasons, mechanical reasons, to buy things here. All sorts of artists come here, and my father became sort of known in the arts community as a good source for cool things.
He didn't necessarily feel like he had to sell anything. It was kind of if he wanted to sell anything, and many of the artists and regular people would come in, and they'd have to go through a negotiation phase with him to get things, and I certainly don't have that attachment. We got a lot of things, and we can certainly keep a lot of people happy going away with some of the great stuff we've got here.
We're really hoping that the things that remain in the black hole today can be taken and put to use rather than being thrown into a landfill. Maybe the landfills will just be the mines of the future, where our future generations will have to go looking for the material that we've thrown away because we were too wasteful. My father never liked waste. He never wanted to throw anything in the landfill. He wanted to save it and reuse it.
One of the things I've been thinking about a lot is the whole idea of what becomes a legacy. Originally I thought this particular property where the church is would be a place, but we can't run a museum, and I don't think that anybody's going to run a museum for the black hole or my father or the anti-nuclear movement in Los Alamos. It's just not going to happen. So I think we have to be practical and see if there's some other thing that we can do. So maybe the house, or maybe it'll just be the obelisk that will be left.
Things that my father designed to document the what he felt was probably the most significant event in human history so far, in that it was here at Los Alamos that scientists created the atomic bombs. They tested the first one at Trinity Site, which is a couple hundred miles south of here, and then they used two bombs at the end of World War II in Japan on Hiroshima and Nagasaki. the block here at the bottom that's a cube, on each surface of it, in 2 languages, he describes the story of Los Alamos. And because there's twin obelisks, you have a total of now 4 times 2, so 8 languages per cube times 2 cubes, 16 languages. And because he put English on both of the stones, there's 15 languages that explain this story. My father offered them to the city of Los Alamos. There's a Art in Public Places committee, and he got turned down. They indicated that he was not an artist and that they weren't really art. We're hoping that we'll find a place here that they will eventually be erected, and they'll be installed here in Los Alamos somewhere. And I think that over time, some of the people that have extreme feelings of dislike for some of the things that my father said will maybe soften up a little bit. And for my father, what he's looking for is, this is a monument so that if his prediction comes true and there's nuclear Armageddon, there will be a monument left standing, perhaps, that will tell the story for some number of years until it erodes into a pile of dust.
Just in the last year, since Occupy Wall Street started, I've been arrested twice, and those are my first 2 arrests. And so perhaps, and the second arrest I definitely did here in Los Alamos on Hiroshima Day, which is a traditional day of protest in Los Alamos against the nuclear program. And I decided I would get arrested sort of in memory of my father.
My father and his buddies at the salvage yard were going through all this stuff at the salvage yard one day, and a board fell off a crate. Guns, all these Kalashnikov rifles were in the salvage yard. The first guy saw it, signed his name, and they got it out of there in a hurry. My dad said he thought that basically somebody in the lab had arranged to have these Kalashnikov rifles show up in the salvage yard, and they were going to buy them, but one of my dad's buddies saw it and bought it first. And he says he doesn't know what happened to them, but he thinks he sold them to some gun dealer in El Paso or something.
And this is the only fun I have with that damn thing, you know, is like this. Hello.
How you doing?
Welcome to the black hole.
We've heard so much about it, and then we finally get here.